Okay, we're going to get started here, pretty close to on time. My name is Carolyn. I work here at the New Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame, and our director's away tonight, so myself and Stephen and Meaghan are happy to be hosting you guys here at our Speaker Spotlight Series. I'd like to do a land acknowledgement, and because we respectfully acknowledge that New Brunswick is situated on unceded and unsurrendered territories of the Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Beska-Domagadi peoples. So as I said, in partnership with She Is Active, the New Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame, and She Is Active has been running the Speaker Spotlight Series. This is our third session, and we have another one coming up in early May, and we're super happy to have our guests here this evening, and I'm going to hand it over to Meaghan from She Is Active, and she'll introduce our guests, and then we will put them in the hot seat for the next little bit. We appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to try and do the least amount of talking as I can tonight, but I'm going to kind of be the facilitator and go through some questions and that sort of thing. So we're really excited to have our four panelists here tonight. I'm not going to introduce them too much. We'll let them talk about themselves a little bit, but we have Marcia, Sarah, Lauren, and Meaghan. So we're going to start with our first question. Start easy. Just introduce yourselves. We'll go down the line. And just tell us a little bit about how you're involved in sport and whatever else. Sure. Cool.
So yeah, Marcia, LaPlante. I'm a field hockey goalie for Team Canada. Originally from Oromocto. I'm involved in a lot of ways. So I'm an athlete, obviously. I coach at the UNB field hockey team as well as Team New Brunswick, as well as lots of clubs kind of in Vancouver while I'm there. Coach ice hockey at the Oromocto High School as well. And I'm also on the board of directors for Field Hockey New Brunswick and a committee member for Athletes Can, which is kind of like the Canadian athlete advocacy organization.
Right. I'm Sarah Hilworth. I'm the head coach of the UNB Reds women's hockey team. I just finished my 8th year as a head coach of the program. I'm originally from Vancouver, and I was a student athlete at the University of Alberta. I played there for 5 years and continued coaching right after I was done. I assistant coached with the program for 2 years and then headed down to a small program just outside of Calgary and started that program from scratch, and then ended up out here 8 years later. So it's been crazy, and it feels like yesterday that I was a student athlete and just finishing up there. And I've been involved in sports since I was young. The earliest memory I can think of when I was coaching was in grade 2. You know, trying to get the other girls in my class involved in sport and trying to get more friends to play with me at lunchtime, really. And just coached all through high school. So I've coached grassroots all the way up to international competition, where a couple of years ago I was assistant coach with the FISU Games women's hockey team, and we won gold at Lake Placid, so that was really cool. So it's been cool to be able to take my love of sport and my passion of sport, you know, since I was a little one all the way through, and be able to do what I love today, and I'm excited to be here, so thanks for having me.
I'm Lauren Hale-Miller. I'm the head coach of the women's volleyball program at UNB. I just finished my first year here. I'm from Fredericton, and prior to coming to UNB, I was coaching in the CCAA for, I think it was 8 years, if I have that right. I played for a year at St. Thomas University, and then after that I just started coaching and fell in love with it. And then currently, in addition to my coaching at UNB, I'm coaching development chair with Volleyball New Brunswick, and I also coach the Canada Games Beach women's team I will be this summer. So.
Awesome. My name is Meaghan Donahue-Wies. I am the Director of Athletics and Recreation at St. Thomas University, so that is my day job. I'm about 18 months into that position, just wrapped up my first full season. Crazy year, super fun year, hosted 2 nationals, silly decisions, but yeah, it was really good. So we're happy that we're coming into some downtime there. In addition to that, I'm the president of Sport New Brunswick, so I've been on the board there for about 6 years, came into the president role last November, navigating quite an interesting period of transition with that organization, but doing a lot of really interesting and fun things. I also teach at UNB. I'm an instructor in the Recreation and Sports Studies program. I teach a 2nd year core class on programs and events in sport and recreation. And I volunteer as mission staff for Team New Brunswick as well, so I'll be going to Canada Games this summer. It'll be my 7th and probably last Canada Games, so we do too much sometimes. I think you can probably gather that from what we all just said, but we do it because we love it, I assume, so I'm sure we'll talk more about that tonight.
Perfect, yeah, I mean, that's obviously our topic, so good transition. At any point too, I will say, if anybody has questions, feel free to just ask at any point, whether it's for the group or for somebody specific. Feel free, I'm going to go through my questions, but if anybody has anything, by all means. So we'll start kind of talking about life balance a little bit more. So if you could share what life balance means to you, and maybe how this definition has evolved over time, if it looks different for you now versus when you were in high school or when you were in school or whatever. So put that out there, whoever wants to go.
I'm just going down the line.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I think, well, for me as an athlete, I think oftentimes I do life balance as like, am I still enjoying my sport? Because oftentimes when you don't have that balance is when you start to feel like it's less fun. So for me, it's being able to balance having fun in sport and also enjoying the rest of my life and feeling like I have an identity beyond being an athlete. Yeah, that would be like kind of like my really quick and short answer to that question.
Yeah, I feel like I do everything 100 miles an hour, and a lot of times I have to remind myself to be where my feet are and be present in situations. So like, there's not much life balance for me. Like I'm full in on one thing or the other, but it's balancing, the buckets that I have and the time that I put into each bucket. But when I'm focused on one thing or when I'm in one thing, like I'm fully in it. So, I am still learning to prioritize work and family and, social and life around that. But the life balance is definitely something that I'm still learning, but when the priority changes from one thing to the other, when it's time to be with family, I'm full in with family. When I'm time to work, I'm full in with work. And, it's hard to get me out of the buckets once I'm in them, and that's one thing that drives my wife probably nuts. But I'm definitely someone who just goes full speed at a time and just doesn't look to do anything differently, but try and just be where I need to be at the time that I need to be, so I can be 100% for the people that need me the most at that point.
I'd say for myself, there's not much balance. It's very much just life, but forever changing, like through the periods of life that I'm going through, right? Like when I first got into coaching, I was single. I could spend all my time doing that, and then when I moved out west and I met my now husband, like I have to prioritize him, of course. I should prioritize him. So like working him into my life and like how do I still coach and be the coach that I want to be, but also be the partner that I want to be. Even like for me moving back home, like prioritizing seeing my family and like how does that fit in. So just like all of the life changes that you go through, you just find ways to like bring them in. And like I know I'm having a baby in a week probably, so that's just going to be like another thing that's going to have to find its way in. But yeah, I'd say very similar to what Sarah said too, like having the buckets and then you're 100% in, but finding the ways to move between the buckets.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matter of am I enjoying everything that I do, and am I doing reasonably well in those things, right? Like, is anything slipping? And if something's slipping, then it's probably time to balance things out a little bit more, right? So it's just sort of an ongoing process of checking in with myself and kind of monitoring how I'm feeling about things, because yeah, like we didn't even really get into it. It's so interesting to talk about how we talk about our identities. Like I have a family as well, right? Like I have an 8-year-old daughter, I have a husband, I have a house. Like those are all things that also require time and attention in addition to all the sport related things that we do, right? So, if those are the areas that are slipping, then that's definitely like that sets alarm bells off, and then I reevaluate in other areas. Sometimes you make some hard choices, like it's probably going to be my last Canada Games, right? Like I love doing that, but it's just not a thing that I can quite handle anymore. So it's just a constant check-in process, I think, which the process I've taken has probably stayed the same because your question asked a little bit about has it changed, but I think the buckets or the things that you try to balance differ and evolve as you age and grow and have families and yeah, all the things.
Can I also add, I feel like it changes every week sometimes too, like, I have a pretty hectic schedule. I go to Vancouver for training once a month, so like, I'll have weeks where I have to fit in all of my work that I do, outside of field hockey in 1 week, and those weeks feel crazy, and I have to figure out how to balance out in those weeks, and then there's weeks where I don't have anything going on, and I can figure out how to kind of fill other buckets that I've been ignoring during those times, and so week by week, year by year, month by month, like it just varies.
That's such a good point. I'm just gonna jump on that. It's such a good point, and I think it's one of the benefits we have in sport because we work on seasons, right? Like we know that we work in a cyclical nature, and so if you can take the look back when you're feeling like things aren't in balance and say, okay, but when will they be again? Like we all have those benchmarks of when the downtime comes or when the season's over or when things just chill out a little bit and then they're gonna ramp back up, and I think that helps a lot. Yeah.
On that note, do you think that balance is something that you can truly achieve, or is it more so about managing priorities and that sort of thing for you? Like, do you ever feel like, yes, I'm balanced perfectly right now?
I feel like the moments you start to feel like that are usually the moments where everything kind of flip-flops. I think, to be honest, I think it's a part of life. There's always going to be weeks where you're overwhelmed. It's more about how can you cope with those weeks so that they don't become these huge kind of clouds over you, I guess. So for me, like a big indicator is, am I having fun? Did I come back from tour and feel like, oh, I should quit all sports and like just, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's figuring out how to manage it more so than expecting it not to be difficult, because the reality is, like, outside of sports as well, like there's always going to be times when you're feeling overwhelmed when there's extra things going on.
Yeah, like the balance is like fluid, I would say. Like there's ebbs and flows of it all, and there's definitely times where you're all in on one thing, and then like you were just saying, like during playoffs, my wife does not speak to me because she knows that like nothing's actually gonna stick. Like basically the month of March, I become a hockey nerd, and it was hard. Like this was the first year with our little 2-year-old where we really had to kind of figure out how that works, and it was great at times and a disaster at times too. Just trying to pick up for her when she needed it, and it was a lot of long nights and early mornings and just trying to figure out that balance there. But sometimes, like, I don't know, like my identity is very much like, well, A, I'm a woman, B, like I'm a wife, like there's just a lot to me, but I am also a coach and this is what I do and what I love. It's not very much a job for me, it's just a part of me and what I know that I've been put on the earth to do. So it's not necessarily a balance, it's just what I do. Like I just know what I need to do and how to do it, and now it's just finding the balance of introducing different things and in different ways of doing it, and I think it's just challenging me to be a better person at the end of the day. So I don't think it's ever achievable. If there is an achievable, I don't think that you would actually really like what you're doing, because I think the challenges that come your way are a good thing, and it just makes you a better human and just learns the most about yourself. And I think this year especially, I learned the most about me out of any year, that's for sure.
Yeah, for me, if I'm feeling balanced, that means I'm feeling calm, and it means there's something else I get to do. So I don't know I think managing priorities is definitely better for me to look at, because balance would be, okay, what can I do next, and what can I add to my plate, even if I shouldn't be adding something to my plate. But yeah, that's what it looks like for me.
Yeah, like I'm saying the same thing, I think, but yeah, like define what balance is for you, and if you hit that, then yes, balance exists. But I think there's no objective definition of what balance is, right? Like it has to be what works for you. It's not, oh, I spent my 10% of time in this area, can't do that anymore, gotta do this now. Like, I want to be doing that, but I can't because I've got to hit objective balance. Like it doesn't exist. So it's just what works for you, for your family, in the time that you're at that moment. If you can hit that and be happy, right, and enjoy what you're doing, then yeah, you've hit balance. But I think the word's a bit of a misnomer.
Let's talk a little bit about time management. First, this is kind of just more so a question of pure curiosity than anything. but can you just tell me like what a typical day looks like for you? Maybe in the height of your season, if you want to use that timeline, because I know, like you said, the seasons and things change. But what does a typical day look for you? Do you want to start, Meaghan? We'll go opposite
Sure.
direction.
We got the questions before and I saw this one, like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to answer this. Typical, like, I'm not sure there is one. Get up, get my kiddo out the door, get her to school on time. That's the first thing for sure. And then work in the middle of the season is check-ins with coaches, check-ins with staff, making sure that we're making the games happen. Like what do we have on tap that weekend or that week for in-person or home events. You know, what policies need review at certain times. Do we have any special events coming up and what work needs to be done on those, right? We do a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of planning. It's a lot of, we do a team meeting like with the staff every Monday to kind of start and plan the week. And so I'm already talking week and not day, right? Like it's just so hard to say what a typical day is. But I mean, typical day is meetings and emails is really what it is. But it's just the nature of those is going to change so much depending on what is happening at any given time. And I mean, to be fair, that's the thing I love most about my job is that it is different every single day. There is no typical day. It's why I've been working in sport for 15 years, right? It's what I love about it. So, yeah, that's barely an answer, but also talking.
In season for me, I mean, the days are all over the place really, but you know, I watch a lot of video, I plan a lot of practices, I meet with athletes every single day. I mean, I'm not meeting with maybe 15 athletes every day, but I'm meeting with at least 3 or 4 of them a day. On the court, depending on the time of year, like 1-2 times a day. I mean, some days are like 4 hours if I want to make them 4 hours, some days are 12 hours if I want to make them 12 hours, so it really, really changes, and then, yeah, we just kind of go with the season.
Yeah, I feel like this year was different for sure, just because of the little one, but before, like during COVID, we did this Wheel of Life thing with Christine Diggs.
Love the wheel.
Yeah, it's like one of the things that you basically divide your time up and see, again, going back to the buckets of where you're dividing your time up, and one of the things that I really sucked at was me and what I was doing, and I was out of shape, mental health wasn't good, like there was just so much going on, and I made a commitment at that time to never not prioritize me and my mental health and all that kind of stuff. So that really drastically changed a lot for me as a person and as a coach. So every morning I get up and I work out, and I hate it, and I don't like working out. And as a student athlete, I vowed after I would never do it again, but here I am every morning at 8 a.m. And I found a gym where I can take my little one. So it's like really, really awesome. So that was one of the things when I was trying to find the balance in my life, is emailing gyms and saying like, look, I want to get back into working out, but where can I do this the best? So they said I can bring her. So every morning we go and we bring her, and she's growing up in a gym and watching women move, and I think that's really awesome. So she's even a little coach. She'll yell at you if you're not doing well enough, and after the exercises, she gets out there and does her burpees and squats. It's pretty cute. So every morning I'll go work out, and then after that I spend time with my daughter in the morning. And then usually around noon I'll go into the office and just check in and see where we're at, and then more or less from noon to 6 o'clock is all hockey stuff. Whether it's meeting with players or video, lots of video, playing team sessions, meetings, doing skill stuff with players, everything you could really imagine. Sometimes we run some skill camps after practice as well, so sometimes I'm at the rink till 9 o'clock at night. But I do try and get home every day around 7 to put Gray to bed, and so I can be there. I want to see her every night. That's my goal every day, is to put her to bed and sing her a song or read her a story, and then probably back to my laptop and watch more videos. So that's pretty much my life for sure.
So we don't actually have a season in international hockey because it just depends on what country is warm when. So we don't have a season per se, but I'll also talk about fall season because when I coach, my schedule is intense. So I guess 2 typical days in season for field hockey is when I'm in Vancouver, which is 10 days of every month, versus when I'm in Fredericton. And so in Fredericton, unfortunately, UNB field hockey has a 6 a.m. practice time. So I wake up at 5:20, get ready, go coach some field hockey for an hour and a half, 2 hours, bring my own gear with me so that afterwards I can get my own training in, go to work, well shower first because it's goalie gear, so it's pretty smelly. So take a shower, go to work. I work for the Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick, and so I do workforce development. If it's during the school year, that can be crazy hectic. So for example, last week I was driving all around the province for career expos. If we're in the summer, we're lucky, usually I get to do most of my work remotely. So from there, I somehow have to fit a workout in between, usually before the evening is up, so whether that's running or a lift session. And then in the evening, I'm typically doing either more coaching or a coaching course or in a meeting for coaching or the Feel Lucky New Brunswick for board director meetings, and then filling in some time with my partner as well. So it's kind of, that's probably about a normal day, and then obviously eating, hopefully, meals during that time, fueling my body correctly. And usually sometimes I also watch Feel Lucky during the day because I love it. When I'm in Vancouver, a bit different because time zone differences and stuff like that. I can work remotely, but I have to get up at like 5-ish so that I get the work day in. So because 5 a.m. is 9 a.m. here, so I try to wake up early, get all my work done before I start training, which is usually midday. Have to fit in a workout at that point too. So I have a goalie session, usually a workout, and then a team session. And then usually also I'm still doing my coaching courses and stuff while I'm out there because I'm trying to get certified. And then again, trying to fit in time with the family I stay with while I'm there and making sure that I'm fueling properly and all that good stuff. And then sometimes, because it's Vancouver, I go for a hike. Because it's nice and there's mountains. And so that's kind of my me time for the day.
Talk a little bit about burnout. What strategies have helped you maybe limit burnout? And if you've experienced it, how have you kind of gone past it? Anybody want to go first?
Yeah, sure. When my brain starts to feel like it's glitching is when I know that it's maybe coming, and that's when like it's doing it right now. But like if I'm in a conversation with somebody and then I start to talk about something where my brain has glitched ahead 6 steps and they cannot follow what I'm talking about, it's just like that is my brain telling me that the mental load is a little too much, and I'm like I maybe need to take some breaths and kind of back up and think about where we're at with things. So that's sort of managing the very beginning phases of it. Like I would say that I'm in that right now, coming off of the season. This is the semester where I teach. Things with Sport and B have been really intense because it's the end of fiscal and we're trying to figure a lot of stuff out there. We just finished hosting national championships and wrapping up the season. So I feel like right about now is probably that time that it would hit if it is hitting. And so I'm trying to schedule off a little more time. I've got a lot of offset hours to burn, so I'm doing shorter days. I'm trying to sleep more. I'm trying to limit the time I'm on my phone. I'm trying to spend more time connecting with my kid and my husband. So when it starts to get to those intro stages, those are sort of the types of things that I will do. I have fully been in burnout and I quit that job. That's sort of, I was lucky enough to get this job. Like I was sort of, it wasn't by design, but like I needed to get out of the job I think I was in because it was like, I was in full burnout stage. So that's a bit of a quitter's way out maybe, but things are definitely better now. So lots of little things. You just need to know what your capacities are and what your what your own signals are for when you're getting into those stages, and then start to put those strategies in place to try to ground yourself a little bit and connect a little bit more with the things outside of the things giving you the burnout, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fair. For me, like I just set up my year in chunks. So after first semester's done, I know that after the first 2 weeks of December, things are gonna calm down for me, and I'm gonna have Lauren and family time, and that's the focus, and that's also the focus that I share with my team as well. Go do your exams and then focus on you. Nothing else matters at this point. And then we go hard again right after Christmas. And I would say this year I felt the most burnout after playoffs because we worked, I would say everybody in our program this year worked extremely hard to get to the playoff spot we did. So I remember when we lost our playoff match, I think my whole team, all of us, well not, obviously not together, but like all of us like took 2 days and we're just like, we can't move, like we're zombies. Like when I was checking in with them, they're like, we literally just couldn't move, but like we all felt it because of how hard we worked, but we knew, okay, we put that work in for a reason, let's take the time we need to rest. They get back into this flow of school, looking after them, so yeah, so like for me personally this year after playoffs was like probably the one where I was like, whoa, I'm really burnt out, also really pregnant. That was even, yeah. And it was the first time like I allowed myself to be pregnant, so anyway, so that played into it, but like, yeah, I allow myself to like have some, like give myself grace, I guess, in the sense that, okay, like I don't need to do anything right now. I don't really even need to do anything within this week. I just need to get my head back where I need it to be so that I can start planning and preparing what we need to do in this off season and where we need to go with our program next year. And then obviously that just helps me be a better wife to my husband because he doesn't like me if I'm grumpy. And then usually summer's a downtime. This year is a little bit different, so again that leads back to like that first thing that we talked about is what priorities are coming my way this summer, but just kind of dealing with those. And like Meaghan said, like she's prioritizing sleep. Like to me, sleep is super important. I can't stay up past like 9:30, so when we have games that go to like 10 o'clock at night, it's a real struggle for me. That's always been a thing. So like I make sure sleep is like a number one priority in my world.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that, I'm like, oh,
Yeah. No, fair, yeah. So you get to a point though now that I fully go to bed at 9. I'm like, oh, it's time for bed.
Yeah.
But I think therapy honestly is what helped me. Like I talk to a therapist, I prioritize my mental health, and I delegate more. I think for a long time I did not, and I did not ask for help, and I led a lot with ego and thought that I had to put myself through things because it's only going to make me better and toughen me up, and I'm going to be ready for everything, but honestly it just burnt me out. And now I feel like I'm a way better delegator, I'm way better at telling people no, I prioritize me and I go to therapy, and I think that's honestly one of the biggest things that helps.
Yeah, so for me it's kind of tough sometimes because my year is all over the place. Like we'll have tours, we'll have camps, which all kind of feel the same, to be honest, in terms of how burnt out you get. But I always know that after tour I always come back feeling super burnt out because tours are intense. You're usually having like, well, I think this last tour we would have had like 6 hours of meetings in a day just watching videos. And it also depends on the results, right? Like losing games, it's a mental toll on your, it's a toll on your mental health. So for example, it wasn't last month now, it was 2 months ago in February, we had a tournament in Chile, lost every single game while we were there, watched so much video analyzing how we played. We were practicing almost every day. If we weren't practicing, we were playing games, not a whole lot of downtime. So I actually called my therapist during that time. We had a meeting, just talked through like, okay, this isn't gonna last forever. You've got like 2 weeks. Like it's just gonna be 2 weeks of, this really tough mental space. And I think kind of she helped me find the bigger picture, right? 2 weeks, and also 2 weeks where you get to play international sports, and then kind of the bigger picture of like, that's a lot to be grateful for. Like it sucks losing, but it's also pretty cool that I get to play for Canada, and I think sometimes you forget the bigger picture of like, we're really lucky that we get to play sports. Like not everyone can afford it, not everyone gets the opportunity to, not everyone has access to sports because of, various reasons. And so sometimes that's what my therapist helps me do, is like see the bigger picture of like, we are very lucky to be doing what we're doing. That doesn't mean that like you shouldn't feel the feelings you have, but it's just kind of a way to look at things. And then I always kind of make sure that when I come back from tour, I like hide my gear in the closet, like nothing field hockey related for about a week at least, minimum, depending on how I'm feeling. Like, we tend to want to like go back and analyze, right? You're like, what did I do wrong? What do I need to improve on? But sometimes you have to just like let it go. And I found that's as I've matured and grown up, that's the biggest thing. Like we used to play, when I played in the university, I used to analyze every single game as soon as it was over. I rewatch the game, rewatch the clips. And that is great for learning, but also you've got to give yourself space to kind of feel the feelings and recover mentally. But like, as Sarah will know, like I like to play more than one sport, and it depends on what your coach allows you to do, but I play like recreational women's soccer in Fredericton, I play in the women's ice hockey league, I play in the ball hockey league, like other ways to just have fun playing sport. Like these are no pressure sports. If I let in 5 goals, I let in 4 goals on Sunday. We laughed about it. It was perfectly like fine. I let in a goal, and field hockey is a bit more stressful, right? So making sure that you've got fun outlets to move your body, I think is really important. Yoga I've started doing, de-stressing, kind of calming. Yeah, because I mean, we all love sports, hopefully, if we're here. But sometimes we can get so intense with our sports that we forget to have fun. So for me, like playing in other sports and playing with like retired athletes and like athletes that are just there to have fun kind of reminds me of like why you even play sports in the first place. Because even at this level, if you're not having fun, it's not worth it.
Shout out to Volleyball.
Yeah.
Pickleball saved my life this year. It is like a time and a half, let me tell you. It's the first time I've never had that like insane competitive drive playing a sport. And if I do mess up, it's like whatever, it's all good, let's keep going.
I'm gonna jump a little bit then, just on that topic. What are some of your favorite ways to relax or take time for yourself or just enjoy yourself outside of all your obligations?
We can start that up on this side if you want to build the pressure for it. For me, sometimes it's just being a couch potato. Like, sometimes when you're so focused on like building your body up and making sure that you're working out, sometimes just laying on the couch watching a movie is like the best thing you could do, you know, with your partner or a friend or a sibling. For me as well, like seeing my family, because they, to be honest, like, they love that I play sports, but to them it's like, well, it's like cool, but like, it's not really that big of a deal. And so being around them kind of reminds me like there's more to life than sports, and then playing other sports as well, just for fun. That's a big one too.
My dog has saved me so many times. When you're with your dog, you just think that thing is just so happy to see you, no matter what kind of day you've had. The dog's pumped, and like Olive is just the best, and she's just, loves to just be around you, and you know, when you need a hug or a cry or whatever you need, and Olive's just gonna be there by your side, and she doesn't care about whatever's going on in your life, she just wants to be with you, and like she just sees you for like who you want to be, right? So I think just spending time with the dog definitely helps. Like a really weird thing that I do that I like to de-stress my mind is I watch people play video games. It's really nerdy. But like if I can't go to sleep, if I watch like Warzone or like Call of Duty or whatever, for some reason it's the only thing I can think of is like the game, and then it shuts my brain off and I go to sleep. So like it's two weird things. I mean, yeah, couch potato and the dog is definitely #1, but if I need a real mental shut off, just watch video games. Puts me to sleep.
Fun fact.
Yeah, I know. It's so nerdy.
Well, I have 2 dogs, and they're both very different, but they're both my outlets. So like, if I need one dog's like, if I need a couch day, he's my guy, and then the other one is like my active one. So really depending on the day, but those are my go-tos. And for me, like I really enjoy being outdoors, so I usually tend to go with my active dog a lot, but just being with him, and I like got emotional when you're talking about your dog because I'm so obsessed with mine. So anyway, but yeah, I spend a lot of time with him. Also, I really like coffee, and I like trying new coffee places, so like that's something that I can really like go different coffee places, or I go to the same one that I like, and just like kind of disconnect from everything. So.
What's your #1 coffee place?
Oh, right now, I like going to the Landing, but I like everything. I like a lot of things, you know. I like going to, well, I don't do this now, but when I travel, like going to like new ones when we're.
Yeah.
We're really in the neighborly. Yeah.
Pickaroons for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's so good.
it's a good vibe there.
Yeah. No, we play pickleball on Sundays. My husband, his parents, and my daughter go for an hour on Sundays, and then go to Neighborly after for coffee and treats, and it's the best way to spend a Sunday. I'm not kidding, guys. I play pickleball 10 times a week. I'm like so bad at it, but it's so fun, and I play with different groups every time. So I get to see my family, I get to socialize with friends, and I get to hang out with my coworkers. Like, it's pretty great. Yeah. In addition to that, I've been trying to read more, and not like sport-related books, not management-related books, but just like what I call candy for my brain, like little rom-com books and stuff like that. Which, yeah, trying to do that instead of the TV, but the TV also plays a big role sometimes in recovery and just vegging out and couch potatoing for sure. Yeah, and then just quality time with my kiddo, like, she's still a handful, like kids are a handful, but she's like turning into her own little person now. She's almost 9, she's just the best. We have so much fun, just playing board games and running around outside, and she is like the biggest Tommy's fan, so she comes to all the Tommy's game with these 2 girls. These girls all know her. She goes to all the games, she knows all the dogs who are in the ring, like, and so it's just, yeah, it's really great to be hanging out with her more as like she becomes more of a person and less of a baby. Yeah, which is just like a cool stage to be in, so anyway.
Can I add trying coffee is also great, but like just trying new things in general too, because I find like it's pretty mundane, especially when you've got, you know, the things that you're working on and stuff like that. So one of the things that I really like doing is trying new things. My partner's not from BC, she's from BC, she's not from New Brunswick, so even like getting to see new places with her, like seeing how like she's discovering places that for me I was like, oh, this is just New Brunswick, it's just Fredericton. Or even like she's never done yoga before, so we signed up for a yoga membership, like all those like intro to yoga classes thing. And so this morning we went at 6:30 a.m. That was like a fun thing we did today. But just like trying new things, I think changing things up, because I find sometimes if I don't, I get so like just too much in a rhythm, if that makes sense. Like everything's kind of like this all the time. So, you know, changing things up is fun, I think too.
You kind of mentioned this a little bit, Sarah, but how do you decide what to say yes and no to? And do you have challenges saying no at all? Obviously, no to God a lot, but I'm sure you say no sometimes.
I think I ask myself, like, does it align with my values and like me as a person? And then does this make myself better, or my family better, or my team better? And then if that's a yes or a no in any of those, then it's an easy yes, and then it's a no, it's a no. Like, I don't have time for a lot of things, and I think I respect my time a lot more, and I prioritize my time a lot more, and it comes back to prioritizing me and what I know I can do my best at, and I never want to go into something, you know, not being 100%, and that's just being true to myself, and I've burned myself on both ends of the candlestick before, and I don't want to be there ever again, and I just love my family and the time that I get to spend with them, so if it's not going to be of benefit to the team, the family, you know, or like me personally, it's making me better, then it's a lot easier to say no. But when I first started coaching, a lot of times it's just about proving myself and like trying to put myself out there and network and meet all those people, and thought I did a really good job of that, and I pushed myself to say yes more. And I was in the like just saying yes mentality all the time to, you know, new adventures or new connections and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I think that was good for where I was at that point in my life, but where I'm at right now, it's just like, I can't do that. And I really have to ask those questions every single time for it to be a benefit. And it still could be, you know, a lot of those things I did say yes to when I was younger, but definitely when I was younger, it was a lot about proving myself, making myself better, making sure that I was getting the right experience to be where I am now. And I think that's just learning how my life changes and learning when I need to say yes and no to, because before you could ask me anything. I was kind of, back in Alberta, they knew me as Hilly, and I was just this young kid who just was super eager to do everything, and they knew they could ask me to do anything, and I would do it, almost to a fault. And I felt like they almost abused that a lot of times, and then when I moved out here, I just was like, no, I can't do that anymore. And so it was definitely a learning curve for me, but I'm glad that I did do a lot of those experiences, and I'm glad that I did say yes to things. But I think at this point, those are definitely the characteristics that I know I'm firm on, and I think finding that balance again comes back to those things that I have to ask myself every time.
I think this is something I really struggle with, and I think it's unlike ice hockey, there's not a lot of field hockey coaches in this country. There's not a lot of. I mean, I'm the only national team athlete on our team who's from outside of BC or Ontario, and so I often get asked to do things in PEI and Nova Scotia and New Brunswick because there's a lack of coach, right? So I have a hard time saying no because I know that if I don't go, there might be a gap. And I know that being from New Brunswick, it was a huge challenge to get to the national team because we didn't have the resources we have. So where I struggle is the balance between, like, it aligns with my values. I know it's important. I know I can do it, and I know it's needed. And so for me, sometimes it's figuring out, like, how can I not half commit, but like give a little to everything instead of giving all to one or two things and then not being able to give to others. And so for me, it's been a balance of how to spread myself out versus like just, saying yes to every sort of camp that there is or team that there is. The biggest one this year was the Marcia High School ice hockey team. Like, I'm not probably the most qualified to be an ice hockey coach, but they wanted like a strong female athlete model, and I was like, whoa, like there's not a lot of national team athletes coming out of Marcia. I was like, that's a good position to be in, to try to help. And so I said yes, and then I realized like coaching, field hockey New Brunswick, coaching OHS, coaching some junior national team athletes, like it's all like a lot to do. And sometimes I also find I don't leave enough space for myself or my partner, and that's where I get caught, where I'm like, ooh, my partner's a bit upset with me, like, and it makes sense because I'm not prioritizing her. So it's how do you make sure that you're, I don't know, and I still haven't figured it out yet. I'm still figuring it out because you also have to do all the coaching courses, and so like right now I'm trying to get my competition development, and that's a huge commitment as well. But it's something that has to be done if you want to coach at a certain level. So it's like, how do you balance the I have to do this, I can do this, I need to do this, I probably don't want to do that. And so that's where, I don't think I have an answer of how to do it because I'm still figuring it out. For the things that I find like align with my value and are important to our sport. For other things, to be honest, I have an easier time saying no to because I know I'm so busy with the other stuff that I can't take on too much outside of that. If any of you guys have advice for that, let me know.
No, I'm still learning as well. I'd say everything volleyball related I want to do. I think the hardest, and I don't even know if I've said no to anything recently, but because for me to say no, it doesn't feel like, I don't feel obligated to do it. I feel this like need and I want to do it, so I kind of take on more than I actually can. And then when I think about saying no, I think about the gaps as well, but then I also get emotional because I'm like, well, who's going to do it? And then I think about the people who would do it, and I'm like, no, I want to do it, right? So that's probably an ego thing, kind of stepping in a bit. But I would just say, like, for myself, and even like the upcoming events in my life that are happening, starting to reflect more on like how I'm going to say no to things that are going to come up, because I'm going to have to decide what's important and what's not as important at that time. So still learning.
I think it's a forever learning thing, right? Like, I mean, I will say, as I'm assuming safely the oldest one up here, it does get a little bit easier as you get older, I think, and you crystallize your values a little bit more, and you crystallize your priorities and what's important, and those things do shift for sure, but I think they feel like they've stabilized in my 40s, like they feel like they've stabilized a little bit. I mean, the other thing too, like I play a very different role than all of you, right? Like I'm an administrator, so I think I'm in a better position to be able to say no to things sometimes, because I'm not in like frontline delivery of sport, so we're doing the sport, right? So I think it is a little bit easier, so take any advice that I do have with that grain of salt for sure, but I just really want to double down on the do things that align with your values. Like I know we're going to get to the advice part, but that would be, I'll see you ladies this week and I'll remind you, but like do one of these little quizzes that helps you identify your values and know who you are as a person and know what is truly important to you, you know? Those things really start to crystallize in your early 20s, and your core values don't change that much, and if you can use that as a guiding light for deciding how you're going to spend your time, like it just makes a huge difference.
student, I probably also should have talked to him as an athlete, not just a coach. So that was my coaching side. But as an athlete, I mean, to be honest, as an athlete, I think the more you get into your sport, the more it's easier to say no, because the more you know how much burning yourself out physically is going to impact your actual performance. I found it a lot harder when I was younger. I played 2 sports at university, even though I knew I probably was doing a little bit too much, and I just felt the pressure to like just keep doing it because I felt like my team needed me, or like, and eventually I figured out, you know, I'm not helping both teams if I'm only able to half commit to each thing. And it's the same thing if you're playing, like I see some kids playing, you know, for 3 teams in a season where they're going from one practice to another, one session to another, and it just leads to burnout so young. And also figuring out like when you need a day off. Like that also took me a while. Like I would sometimes get injured because I'd be like, oh, I need to work out more. Like I need to be better. I need to do more training sessions, more technical sessions. And eventually I figured out, like, I actually was getting worse at one point because I was so tired all the time. My muscles weren't as explosive as they should have been. My technique, I was just so focused on technique that I wasn't focused on being competitive, which happens, I think, in a lot of sports. You get a little bit too technically focused. And so I think figuring out that, like, the balance actually helps performance rather than trying to, like, stack things on. Eventually you're going to get so tired that you're going to underperform.
One thing I want to add to is just know your support system, right? Like talk to people, whether it's your partner or your therapist or whoever. Just like, am I taking on too much if I do this thing? And talk it through. Do the pros and cons lists if you need to help make your decisions, right? But like I'll check in frequently with Justin, my husband. Like he's got a good idea of how much I do for sure because he has to listen to me complain about a lot of it. But and we've been married a long time, so he's got a good handle on when I might not be able to take something on. So not that I don't trust myself to make these decisions for myself, but sometimes it helps to just have a sounding board for those things. So checking in with your support system can be helpful too.
Go right into support system.
Oh, okay.
We'll come back to maybe mental health a little bit later, but is there a person or a group that's been essential to helping you maintain this balance, and how have they supported you?
I guess I can build on that a little bit. I kind of just answered that, but yeah, no, Justin and I have been together for 15 years. We've been married for 12. So he is that person for me, for sure. My parents have always been super helpful and supportive. Like I've got the best family, which is like, that doesn't change as you get older, which is so great. And Riley, like I'll check in with the kiddo, like, hey, you seeing mama enough? Like every once in a while she, earlier on when I took this job, she would tell me, she's like, oh, Mama, I'm not happy you took this new job because you're always at the gym or whatever. And I'm like, Riley, you don't remember summers at the soccer club, do you? And so it's like, it's okay, kiddo, it'll get better. We'll find the ebbs and flows. We'll spend so much time together in the summer. But kids have no filter, so like they're really great people to check in with as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's just my family. When I started coaching, like my parents were both very supportive of it, and as I went out west by myself, then I met my husband, so like he's very supportive of it as well. And I remember when I first met him, I said, if I ever get the job in New Brunswick, I'm moving back there, so I hope you're ready to move back. And then last year when we got it, or when I got it, he was like, well, I guess we're moving to New Brunswick. So it's been a really neat like transition for me, I guess, with my support system. Not transition, but like addition to be able to like start in New Brunswick, go out west, meet my husband, add him into obviously that support, and then come here and have both like both my parents live here, and obviously my husband's here, so it's been a really, really neat experience, especially this past year. So
Definitely my wife's my rock for sure, and when we first started dating, I said, I'm going to do this coaching thing, you better get ready to go on wherever we're going to go. And so we met in Edmonton, and now we're on the East Coast. And my brother, he's my best friend, and he moved out here with me, so he's definitely been another rock of mine. And then just by like surrounding yourself, like my assistant coaches are just awesome. Like I can't say enough about my team within team kind of thing, and I think it's taken a long time for me to get to a spot where I feel the most comfortable and confident. But you know, you want to put people around you that are going to uplift you. that make you, that empower you, and that you want to empower them as well, and work together as a team. I think that cohesion is so important for accountability, but also just for communication too. Like, sometimes, you know, you might have someone who's brilliant in the sport, but they're not what's best for you. And if you're ever in a head coaching position, like, put people around you that are gonna make you better, not who other people think that you would make you better, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, like this year I just feel the most confident. I love coming to the rink. It's such a joy. It's so much fun. Like, I love seeing the girls, but like honestly, like just coming in the coach's room and seeing like Taylor, Nick, Cass, and Katie, like it's just like, oh, like I can't wait for it every single day. So, you know, I think that's been a game changer for me. Whereas before, I was just so concentrated on work and what I have to do get done and all this kind of stuff, and I could never really relax and enjoy the sport. But now when you have those people that are just there to sometimes just shoot the shit with you and just have fun and make your day a little bit better, like even if you have there's zero productivity because you're just goofing around with these people, like I just feel so much better in that room. So yeah, like obviously your team within a team is, I think, super important, and then who you surround yourself. You have to be picky, and you got to make sure that those toxic people are just out of your life and you have no time for it. And it's hard, especially when you're young, and trying to make those decisions is not easy, but you have to be particular on what's going to make you better and not necessarily what you think is going to make you better, because it can ruin your self-esteem, can ruin your mental health, it can ruin a lot for you. And I don't know, like sports is supposed to be fun and you're supposed to enjoy it, so put people around you that you can do that and you'll probably be okay.
Yeah, my partner as well. She actually doesn't play sports at all, like doesn't really actually understand what's going on during my field hockey games, which is actually perfect, because that means that when I go home, like, no field hockey, like, we don't have to talk about the game. She'll be like, oh, but did you have fun? And that's like pretty much the question, and I'll be like, yes or no. But I think as an athlete, your support system is bigger than you usually think it is. So it'll depend on obviously what level you play at. But if you're, for example, in university, you have obviously your coaching staff. That can differ based on what your relationship is like. Usually, you know, if you can't maybe relate with a head coach, there's an assistant coach or an athletic trainer, physio. You know, there's even counselors usually at your university. Sometimes sports specific. I'm not sure about UNB, but at my university we had like a sports specific counselor, which was awesome because you could go talk about, you know, everything that was going wrong with sports, and rather than saying like, well, if it's bothering you, why would you play if it's bothering you, kind of thing. I say that because I had a therapist tell me like, why don't you just quit if it's, you know, stressful. Then like find those resources, and like it never hurts to ask. If you're provincial team, for example, or higher level, there's also a lot of some CSI Atlantic, I think, resources for some higher level athletes, ranges like from provincial to carded athlete, but you know, some of those resources, it doesn't hurt to ask. You never know what you have access to. Or even financial support, like Sport MD now does the NBAAP, but like some athletes are eligible for that money, whether it's, you know, $500 to $6,000. Again, it doesn't hurt to ask, and that's kind of financial support, which is also a huge strain as well. Like that's probably my biggest burnout strain as an athlete, is like, how am I affording to play? Because we don't get paid enough. And so it's just, sometimes it's just figuring out, like I just found out today that I can actually work with a high performance strength coach one-on-one, and I didn't know because I never asked. And so if you're not sure, it never hurts to ask your coach, like, do you know of any resources that are available? If they don't know, I'm sure they can guide you to someone who does know. And it's all about building the network. Like when I moved to Vancouver for field hockey, I didn't have a support network at all. I was alone in a city that I'd never been to. I had no family, I had no friends, and that's kind of how I started. Was I contacted our high performance director and I said, hey, like what exactly, like who can I ask for basically anything? And I got like a nice list. They gave me like game plan, they gave me CSI, and so just doing a lot of research, and then you make friends, and then your friends introduce you to friends, and I think teammates as well are a huge resource that we often think about as like, well, they're just our teammates, but the reality is like emotional support, friendship is a big way to avoid burnout. they also might know resources that you don't know, so I think, you know, it doesn't hurt to ask anyone about resources, and I think, like, if you have friends, like, lean on them, you know what I mean? Not too much, I mean, to a certain extent, but, yeah, I think those are probably my big support network aspects.
I think too, like when you're thinking about support network, like the people that you're keeping in your inner circle, they know what you want to get out of it. Like my friends, my closest friends, my parents, my husband, they know that like I identify as a coach, and like at the end of the day, like I am a coach, and that's what I want to be, and that's who I want to be. And they all support that. So it's like middle of the season, I would see my friend group that I've been friends with for 20 years. They're like, oh yeah, she is coaching. Like, we'll see her in 3 months. Like, they know that, or, you know, for them, like, for some of them, for them to get quality time with me is to come to a game on a Friday night. And then I see them for 10 minutes after the game. But that's good, right? Because then their kids are like, oh cool, we got to see Lauren, and that's it, and then we'll see them again next week. So that's been interesting too, to like come back home to that group that I had left, and like to see them come out to games, and like they support that as much as anything, because I don't know, you just need those people, I think, in your life, whether a coach, athlete, administrator, like whatever you identify, what you want to identify as, you want to make sure those people in your circle are always supporting that, of course. So
I think that's a good point, because I think as women we're conditioned to knock each other down a lot of times, and like, you know, especially being a mom, like, you know, trying to balance so many things is very, very hard, right? But if you can't put people around you that are gonna uplift you and like support you, like, I think back to being younger and stuff and trying to be cool or trying to fit in with people, but all they're doing is tearing you down, or, you know, talking crap behind your back, or there's jealousy and why is she getting this and why I'm not getting that. Like, we really are being brought up in this society where that happens all the time, and I'm sure you guys can look around and some of your teammates that you're just like, man, this person is not good to have around because she's just not supporting me. And I think that is like so spot on. It's like, as you get older, you're just like, I don't have time for this person, and like, if it's gonna be a quick conversation of like, hey, you're being mean to me, like, stop, like, or like, I'm not gonna be friends with you anymore. Like, it's an easier conversation when you're older versus like forcing to be a teammate or forcing to be in the same room or capacity with. But I feel like we need to really, and one of the things that we're working on with our team is like conditioning it to be a culture of uplifting and supporting and celebrating us as women. And especially when student athletes, where it is a lot more challenging us versus our male counterparts. So we need to continue to work on that environment so that when we are older, and you know, the generations going through are just used to like celebrating women instead of having jealousy or knocking her down or anything like that. And you know, you see it all the time, like in media especially. It's so frustrating to watch, and it's just, you know, it just propagates this culture for us women just to look around and just be like, why can't we just be positive and celebrate and uplift each other instead of comparing ourselves all the time? And it's really frustrating. So yeah, finding those people who can really be there and who are true to you, and no matter what, like my best friend's in Vancouver, and like literally, I think I talk to her on the phone once a year, but we send memes to each other. But like, I love her to death, and she knows that I'm doing what I do, and she loves me, and she posts about like things that I'm doing all the time. I'm like, man, like she's so great, right? Like you need people in your life like that, and you know, if you lose a friendship or you lose family members over it or anything like that, don't worry about it, because if you're staying true to yourself and you're doing what you love, and people can't support you to do that, then screw them. Like, you don't need that. That doesn't. It's not going to help you, and it's not their life. It's yours. And just live authentically and be yourself, and find those people that are going to do that for you, and then you're going to be golden.
Awesome. We'll talk about sport, I guess, from a different perspective. You're all leading a team or leading staff. So how do you ensure that you're kind of that support person for your athletes or for the staff that you're working with?
I think of the expression, like, can't pour into or can't
Pour from an empty cup.
Can't pour from an empty cup. I'm French, and I'll use that as an excuse. You know what I mean? Like if I am burnt out, then I can only give so much to the athletes I coach or to my teammates at practice. And so it really is like taking care of yourself is taking care of other people too. I often think about this in my relationship if I'm grumpy because I'm burnt out and I'm tired and I'm sick of working out and I get home and I'm like just a grump. Like that's not really fair to other people, right? And so, and the solution, I think that's like the big thing for me is like you take care of yourself and you can better take care of other people. You make the kind of buckets bigger, I think, if you're, just keep going with the bucket analogy. Like your buckets become bigger when you're feeling good and healthy and mentally strong.
Yeah, that's like honestly the best advice right there. Like, yeah, it's hard sometimes to prioritize yourself in times where other people are in crisis or need you the most. I'm a very anxious person and I'm a fixer, and if someone is not well or going through something, I want to fix it and I want to help that person, and I go 100% in with that person, and it sometimes like I just ignore everything else that's going around me, and I care so deeply about the people that are in my life. So like every single one of my student athletes and my staff, like I care about them so much, and I'm very bad at just dropping everything else over here to go full in and help them over there. But I think that's just who I am, and I need to continue to figure out how to work that. But I just think that when you're a coach, you have to create an environment that allows vulnerability and a level of flexibility and care as well. And for me, like, I want to continuously create that environment where people who need me can always come to me, and they know so deeply that I care about them and love them truly. So I think, to a fault, I jump in 2 feet a lot of times and I ignore even myself. But when you care about what you do and you care about the people that are around you, it's a little bit easier to do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a lot like Sarah in that aspect, and I think too, like, for me personally, being vulnerable has been like a huge part of like this coaching journey, and then now trying to have student athletes do that has been very interesting. So taking on a lot of, I don't know, I feel like you take on more when you're teaching someone, trying to teach someone to be vulnerable with you, or create that environment. So yeah, it's just an ongoing process, but I think that vulnerability and that care piece are so important.
Yeah, for sure. I feel pretty lucky that I'm in like a couple of different roles where I have like an active role to play in setting a culture, like within kind of the staff at St. Thomas and the broader picture within a little bit with what we do at Sport New Brunswick as well. And it's so easy to fall into the danger when we work in sport of just working constantly, because sport doesn't stop, right? And it doesn't happen Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Like it's not a thing. So being in a position where I can try to help people to balance their schedules a little bit and kind of help them put some boundaries in place around their own schedules and check in with, my staff every week and just what days this week are you taking off? Not are you taking days off, what days are you taking off if we come off a weekend where we hosted 9 home games? It's not an option, like you're taking time off this week. So just the little ways that you phrase the questions or ask the questions to try to encourage this behavior and perpetuate this behavior a little bit where, we can try to find the balance, I think. And then, yeah, the vulnerability, the care, the communication, like those all go hand in hand with setting a good culture. But doing the best to remind people that, I had somebody say to me once, I said in out of office, I was very second year on the job, I think. I said my out of office, I was like, I asked my boss, I was like, who do I point to in case of emergency? And they said, there are no emergencies in sport, Meaghan. There are no emergencies. There is no in case of emergency. You'll get to it when you get back. And I'm sure we can all think of exceptions to that idea, but sometimes just keeping that perspective, that we're so lucky to be involved in sport. Like, we really, really are. And I think we all do it because we love it and we're so passionate about it, and that makes it easy to do it, I think. But yeah, just keeping the perspective of, you know, it's sport when it comes down to it, right? And we can balance things a little bit as much as possible, and we can kind of set that culture where we don't have to be working 90 hours a week to make things happen. We do sometimes, national championships, an example, playoffs, you know, things like that. But we don't have to all the time, so I'm rambling a little bit, but I feel like it's really important because like we have a culture in sport, administration, coaching, competing, I think, where people are overworked and often underpaid, and we need to be shifting that. We need to be shifting that.
Like to add in vulnerability, like also the flip side, it never hurts to tell your athletes if you're having a rough week, you know what I mean? Like, it's better to do that than out of context have a coach be grumpy, or because we also, I think, forget how much of an impact we have on our athletes if we say something like in a wrong tone or, you know, something like that. So it never hurts to be like, hey guys, it's been a long day, it's 6 a.m. and it's been a long day already. Like, if I'm a little grumpy, that's why. And also, like, as an athlete perspective too, like, it never hurts to tell your coaches or your teammates if you're having a bad day. Actually, I think coaches would prefer to know if you're having a bad day rather than just going and, like, practicing, and maybe you're not practicing as well as you probably should be. And also just, honestly, a lot of times coaches already care about the performance aspect. If you're having a bad day, they care about you as a person. And so I'd say, like, that communication as well for your coaches and your teammates as well, I think is important. And if you have athletic, like, therapist staff and stuff as well, because honestly, like, I think things like, you know, if you're having a bad sleep, that stuff is injury, you know, risks as well, so.
I think that's a good point, because I would say 90% of our job is people management, maybe even higher. Like, I really love making practice plan. Like, I love it, because it's so much fun for me, and I love making drills, and like, there's a lot of coaches that just do the same practice plans all year long, and I'm not that person. I love to teach, I love to be creative, I like to try and change the game, but that's like, maybe, like an hour or two of my day, and like, I go full in because it's a lot of fun, but the most, like, watch a lot of video and like read a lot of tactic stuff, how can we be better there, but most of our job is people management, and like just checking in on the girls, how they're doing, making sure that they do have the supports they need, and you know, even the messages for us, like in our exit meetings at the end of the years, you're never going to be the athlete that you want to be if you don't know who you are as a person. And if you can't go over this off season and be an absolute beast in the gym, I think that is huge for us. But just learn about yourself. Like, how can you become a better person, a better teammate, and how can you further along your development as a person? And that's actually what's going to take you further in sport than, you know, if you go and shoot 100 pucks every day. It's probably going to help a little bit in the long run, but like, I don't care. I don't care if someone comes back and can shoot harder than they did when they left in March. Like, whoop-de-doo, like, that's going to help us for sure. You should want to do that, and that should be the intrinsic motivation to want to help your team get better. But that level of care is so deep, because we just want people to be their very best when they leave our program. And it's a two-way street for sure, but if they can't be honest with us and we can't be honest with them, and we can't create that bridge of communication, A, we're not modeling the behavior that we want them to lead with, and so that's a detriment to them, but B, they're not going to become the best person that they can be, right? So if a girl comes up to me and says, hey, I'm like 60% of the day, give me 100% of your 60%, we're good to go. Like, thanks for telling me, I'm not going to squawk at you, you're probably going to be good, like, just, you know, if you need time off or you need to take the day, like, take a mental health day, like, it's fine, like, you know, prioritize yourself and be true to yourself, and like, actually learn who you are as a person, not just as, you know, Marcia, the field hockey player, or the hockey player, or the potential pickleball player here, right? Yeah, like, you gotta really learn who you are as a person, and if you can do that, like, you're gonna become like the best badass version of yourself, and like, at the end of the day, you'll walk away from sport being like, wow, I'm so excited to play beer league with Sarah Hilworth.
I am, it's really great.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I lofted that one to her, because she gets to play with me sometimes.
Yeah, I think that it's so true. Like, as much as I love volleyball, the sport itself, like, I really love the relationships that I get to create, and getting to watch, like, the growth of the person. in addition to like obviously their skill, but the growth in person. And one of the questions we discuss in our end of season meetings are, what are 3 things that I ask the athlete, what are 3 things you feel like you've developed in your life or as a person over the year, and it's not allowed to be volleyball related. So it gives them time to reflect on, okay, over the past 9 months, 8, 9 months, what have I done and how have I grown and what have I learned, and how will they bring that with them moving into the summer and into next season. So yeah, and like some of the girls this year were like, I've never been asked that. And I was like, yeah, well, get used to it, because that's what we're doing.
I think also, like, sport's only gonna last, like, competitive sport is only gonna last so long, right? So it's what can you get out of it, not just what can you give into it. And so, whatever you invest, you're also getting back. And you also, like, I don't know, I'm a firm believer in that, like, sports should give you experience, like, outside of sport. So, like, I got, an education out of it. I got to travel around the world. I got to, learn about different cultures. I got to become a leader, learn how to communicate effectively with people, even though I disagree with them, like, things like that. And so I think that's huge, because realistically, might play until I'm about 30. That's, not even half my life, hopefully. So, like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life, and what did my sport experience give to me that, brought value to the rest of my life?
I think it's super important because a lot of you are working with people who are not going to be athletes forever. They might be in that transition period soon, potentially. So building them up, building the skills and the qualities, so that when they are inevitably not an athlete anymore, who are they when there's more sport, or they have to transition into rec sport? Like, I think it's really great to hear that you're focusing not just on the sport aspect, but on the whole person. So it's awesome. Switching gears a little bit here, you probably spend a lot more time on gender and being a woman in sport, but what challenges, or do you think women face some different challenges when it comes to balancing their life in sport, and have you experienced kind of some differences that you think maybe men might not?
100%. I think just going through just being pregnant and having to bear a child and still coach, and the expectation is still for me to be 100% of my job. Now you're going through it, and then after you have the kid, and then it's really a decision as to whether or not you are going to go on mat leave, whereas a lot of jobs you're just like, oh, you're going on mat leave. Like, you have to decide whether or not you want to leave your team actively for a year and then come back to it afterwards, and I made that decision to do that. Because it was the best, again, going back to my values, it was the best for me and my family, and I'm never going to get that time back with my kid, and I'm so happy that I did it. But it did bring challenges back, coming back to the team for sure. And but yeah, there's a lot, like, in terms of just different things that there's invisible labor that we have to go through that I don't think our men have to go through, both working and at home too. And I just feel like there's like 2 times more on our plate, potentially even more on our plate a lot of times, because of that invisible labor and the expectation socially, culturally, and societally that we have to do. And for us, I put a lot of pressure on myself to model the behavior that I want our girls to see, that you can be a mom and still do an unconventional job that is not 9 to 5, and you don't need to, put your priority aside for what society believes that you should do. So I feel like there's even more pressure on me to model the behavior as a mom for my student athletes, because they don't see it. There's no representation of it. There's very few moms in our sport at a high level that are doing what we're doing at my age. A lot of them will quit and then come back to the sport later on, and I just feel like there's a lot of pressure, whereas on the flip side, a lot of times, like, that is not even in the question, because of just different setups that, again, culturally and societally, that are set up. So I don't know, that's my belief, and I feel like you know, there's definitely, in our sport, a lot of opportunity that is on the rise to continue to climb the ladder. But at the same time, I think we're still finding that we're in a male-dominated sport on the women's side in terms of coaching and just auxiliary of, you know, the whole mechanism of sports. So I would say it's definitely, it's still hard, and I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to be that model as a mom, and just making sure that all of our student athletes understand that you can do both. It's not easy, but you can find a way to do it if you really love it and you're truly passionate for it.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to your question is always gonna be yes, as long as the patriarchy exists. Like, I'm not gonna get up on a soapbox and start, you know, talking about patriarchy here, but, yeah, like, the mental load is more for women, like, it's documented in research, the invisible labor is more for sure. I think, like, that's such an interesting point, Sarah, about the added pressure to be the example. Like, I think that, and then it just adds to the workload, and it adds to the mental load, and it adds to the invisible labor, right? Like, you know, I chair the ACAA REDI committee, and I sit on the CCAA REDI committee, and it's mostly women who are on those committees, or people of color, or, you know, like a lot of intersection within equity, diversity, and inclusion, who are people who need to step up and advocate for themselves because, you know, traditionally, the old white men who sat in these chairs for a really long time didn't, right? So, yeah, it's always going to be there, I think, and it's again, it's like it's an honor and it's a privilege to be able to do this work and to be able to hold that role, but it's hard. It is hard. It's a lot, and it is a lot of pressure, and it is a lot of responsibility, and I think it's really important. And again, I'm very grateful to be in the roles that I am and to try to be an example for other young women. But yeah, I'm tired all the time. Yeah.
I think field hockey is such an interesting sport because it's obviously female dominated in our country, but actually around the world it's male dominated, and so it's interesting to see how it looks like in our country versus other countries. And actually there needs to be more work to like increase the amount of men. But when you think about it, the reason men don't want to play field hockey is because they view it as a female sport, or like too feminine, which is its own issue. But I think mostly where I've seen kind of the challenges would be with kids, for example. Loads of times you see, you know, dads on a national team, easy. We haven't had a mom on our national team like ever that I could think of, to be honest, because women feel like they have their kids and now that's their full-time commitment. How could you commit full-time to a sport when you've just had a child and you have to take care of this child? But like the men, like they'll just go play anyways and they'll leave for 2 weeks and it's not an issue. They can go on tour, they don't feel like it's an issue. So I'm not sure why there's still that perspective. But like even thinking about myself, and if I don't have, like, well, I don't have kids, but like, is that going to be the end of my field hockey career? Like, I don't know. And that's not something that a lot of the men's team has to think about. Another thing is time in pregnancy. Men don't have to think about like, when in the year do I want to have a kid? Like, do I have qualifiers coming up? Okay, I can't get pregnant then. Do I have, you know, is Pan Am's coming up? I can't get pregnant then. Like, it's a challenge. Like, that's a lot to think about that, you know, men don't even have to think about. Maybe in terms of like convenience, I guess, but not in terms of like their physical body being able to play sports. The other kind of thing is we've had tournaments where we've gone and the clothes for the women just don't fit like athletic bodies, and it's like they're made for like little arms, like not muscular arms. The legs aren't made for like people with like a lot of hockey players, field hockey players with big butts. You know what I mean? It's just a thing if you're muscular. And so it's just feeling comfortable in clothes that you get to as a national team athlete, and it happens at all levels of sports, I'm sure. Well, I know because I've been there. In terms of like, they don't make all clothes fit like an athletic female body, and I think that's a bit crazy as well.
Sarah, I think your comment about the mat leave was interesting, because like my battle is I don't want to take mat leave, but I'm going to for a little bit, because I certainly can't see myself stepping away for a year, and that's just my view. But like the societal norms of it, now people like I get looked upon, well, you're not taking leave, so it's like it's interesting to like go back and forth. And I talked to a few coaches within U Sport who did take leave, didn't take leave, and like everyone's experience is different, but there's like not enough of us who have done it to speak to their experience. So we can't like create that norm or create a new norm, I guess. So it's been an interesting thought process for me, but everybody already said everything else.
I'm gonna ask maybe one more question and then we'll see if anybody else has questions they'd like to ask. But how can we create more supportive environments for women in sport who are often juggling multiple roles at once?
Things like this. Like, we're gonna be talking about it. We need to have open lines of communication. We need to have forums and again, like being in the roles, like take on the responsibility of having those conversations and you know, and asking the questions like, what time off are you taking? Or how are you doing? Like, let's check in and caring about people, right? Like, I think it's everything we sort of talked about, but having the platforms that we have, and then, you know, having great programs like She Is Active and stuff that create these opportunities for continued conversation is just such a good start on all of it.
I think policy is important too to have in wherever to support women, to make sure that, you know, there's equity and equality, and I feel like sometimes we're just going for equality when equity might be, the policy needs to be more equitable. So I think just continuing to challenge for more support, and even with mat leave, you know, not everyone gets it, right? And it looks different, and that was one of my challenges when I first got to UNB, is that they never had a coach ask for the things that I asked for policy, and they were like, oh, you never had to think about this. And so there was a policy change that helped support me as a woman who was trying to balance family and sport and continuing to do what I love. So I feel like continuing to reevaluate policy to make sure that it's current, and continuing to develop to support women or those who identify as women in all roles in sport and all facets of it.
I'd say like more easier education options for learning like what your resources are. So like I don't want to sit through a 2-hour long webinar about, you know, what our AAP, so athlete assistance program, like resources are. So for example, our coach, which was really great this last karting camp that we had 2 weeks ago, brought someone in to tell us like, here are the basic couple things you're probably going to want to know about what you have for resources. And one of them was, I didn't even realize, like you can get a monthly stipend if you have a kid and you're an national team athlete. Like that's good to know. Like after I heard that, I was like, oh. That doesn't have to be the end of
Yeah, we all have kids
career.
for the money. That's okay.
Well, those are things you can use for like childcare and like things like that that allow you to keep competing, right? But like if you don't know about that, then you're just thinking, okay, I've got very limited funds that I get from my sport, and I'm spending like I'm already spending it all on my sport. So what money is left over? You know, if I have a kid, like how am I going to afford that? That's one way you can, like, it's not a lot of money, but it's something, right? And so making that information easily accessible and not like hidden in pages and pages and pages of like AA contracts is one thing. And then the other is representation. I think that, I mean, if you see someone do something, you then kind of feel like you can do it too, right? And that's something that I've seen here in New Brunswick, even like, and this is like, I'm trying to be cocky, but like since I came back, there's a couple of girls who were like, oh, Marcia's on the national team and she's from New Brunswick, like, why couldn't I do it? And so we now have like the girls that got invited to the junior national team tryouts, which is huge. We have girls that are getting invited to Connection, and they like feel like it's a realistic goal, right? So if you see women doing stuff, you gotta feel like as a woman you can do it. So even if that's, you know, going on that leave and you're like, okay, someone else did it, I could do it. And I mean, yeah, representation is tough too, because it's, you know, I don't know if Sarah wants to be put on a billboard and advertise for that, but it's like, what does social media look like? What does, you know, what do movies look like? Like, things like that. And so, I don't know, it's interesting how, you know, things can be presented and information can be given in simpler ways and not, you know, trying to figure out what a policy is at your university.
Yeah, sometimes like just being a trailblazer and the first to do it, it's a little bit easier when you feel supported too. So when you have that cheerleaders, you know, just even sharing it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and like just, you know, seeing people do that, like, and just uplift you a little bit, like even people that don't even know you, that are just pumped at you from Waramocto or anything like that, I think it makes it a little bit easier to be the first. And I'm sure everyone's sick and tired of being the first of so many things, but it feels a little bit better when you do have that, you know, just little thing that you can do to like, oh, she's a badass woman, let's celebrate her, let's uplift her and make her feel special, instead of being like, oh, why can't I do that? I work harder than her or whatever, right? So
On that note, if you happen to be the first for anything, make sure you take care of yourself, because being the first can be a bit tiring. For now, is what it can look like.
Yeah. I don't know, for me, and I think everything was pretty much said, but one of the things for me, and I would say like I look up to Sarah in this aspect, and she wouldn't know this because I never told her, but when she was at nationals and like you had your kids out on the ice with you, like that's huge, right? And the Reds are sharing that, like I'm here pregnant, like yeah, okay, we can do this, like this is gonna be something that we do. And I think knowing that our institution supports that, and they supported me the whole time, and Sarah did some great work with some policies that are helpful for me. So yeah, so I just think it's really neat, and I yeah, thanks for that.
yeah, no problem.
It's representation.
Right, exactly.
Oh yeah, no, I had no choice. Again, circle.
Hey, well, it looked good on the Facebook
Yeah, no, I
page.
did about 20 laps. Yeah, I got my workout in there.
Does anybody have any questions? We have 10 minutes left before we wrap up.
I have a few things that I could ask, if I could. First of all, I applaud you guys. Great job. I'm really happy to be here, listen to you talk. You're very engaging. My last role is in volleyball. I did 43 years as a referee, but I was given a job, and it was kind of crazy how I got the job, but it was in Toronto, and pulled into this room, and they said, you're going to pick the next 5 international referees. And I said, why? Because you should have international referees doing that. I was international. I said, it's not going to work well with the group. And no, he said, you speak independently all the time, and that's what we like about you. And I had that conversation many times before that. Envision your leaders to be good talkers, but think independently. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? When I say, like, do you have issues speaking independently in groups and stuff like that, or do you hold back, or like when you put the foot to the gas, or just maybe anything that's come up where you've been in an event somewhere and you've been talking, and you think, okay, I got the room right now, and I'm going to just push harder and see what I can get out of them. So, and again, I know Lauren's story a little better than others, but I know Lauren's, dedication, right? You've been across the country, you've been training, you got your job, and I like to think that I'm part of your support staff here with that too, right? So that would be one thing I'd ask you. What do you think of people who think independently? Because I think that's a big thing for leaders.
I think when I was younger, I cared about what more people thought about me. Now I don't care. I'll just say what I mean, mean what I say. Yeah. I mean, depends on the audience and who's around and all that kind of stuff. But if I care about it, I feel like I'm at a point where I'm very secure in my life, secure in my job. I feel comfortable in who I am, and I want to share my value. If I feel like I'm supposed to be in that room, or if I've been invited to that room, there's a point to me being in that room. And I feel like a lot of times I have to now hold back because I just want to take over the room. So, but when I was younger, for sure, I was intimidated, and a lot of times it was me, and a lot of times it was just all other males that I felt like their voices were more important than my own. And I think it just came with confidence, a little bit of maturity, getting older, and just making sure that I was doing what I needed to do to be important in the room. And now, whichever room I'm invited to, I feel like I can add that value. I think it helped too, moving from Alberta to New Brunswick, where from growing up in the Alberta system and doing all that kind of stuff, they saw me in one identity, in one way, and it was just young. And then moving out here, a lot of people were coming to me asking my opinion on things. And I just felt like people cared what I said here, and that gave me a lot of confidence. So, you know, coming into this job, there was a lot of media pressure, and a lot of pressure just bringing the program back. Alumni, yeah, there's just a lot on this job, and I think as I actually sat down, I was like, I am important, I am valued, I can be who I truly want to be, and I just felt like from there on out, I am not afraid to be mouthy when I need to, and I have to be pulled back sometimes because I want to say what I really want to say, and when I care about something deeply, I'm not afraid to voice my concern, because if I don't, then I think it's a disservice.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten, it gets easier as you get older. Like the imposter syndrome can still be there, can still be real. It was a lot more real when I was younger. But just with years and years of doing anything. In this role especially, I find myself frequently standing in rooms of hundreds of people with a microphone in my hand. Like they keep handing me microphones in these rooms or in these gyms or whatever. And it's nice to kind of have that opportunity and, you know, to be able to just say the things I mean and to have the chance to do it. And I'm also in a position now where I can create a lot of change if I want to, and that's really exciting, I think. My least favorite thing is the answer to the question why is because we've always done it that way. Like no, that's not a good enough reason, and so we've changed some things at St. Thomas because of that, I think. You know, just feeling confident in your decision-making processes and your ability to communicate those decisions and knowing that you have good reasoning for why you're doing things and just having that confidence that has come with lots of experience and then again, having the platform I feel very grateful for that. Eventually people are going to stop handing me microphones, I think, and that's probably not a bad thing, but for now, we'll keep leaning into it, I guess.
I think for me, so like my pathway to the national team was so much harder than it should have been. Like there was no pathway to get to the national team for New Brunswick. Like they told me I couldn't get invited to a camp because I had never played domestically, meaning like Ontario or BC. And so I had to like spend thousands of dollars to play for Team Ontario. I had to like fly up to camps and be like, please just like watch me play. And like it was infuriating to me, but when I got up to the national team, I was just grateful to be there. And I was like, okay, well, I'm, you know, this small town kid from New Brunswick, if I get kicked off, who's gonna notice? Like, and so for me, I was like scared to advocate for like what I knew, like that was my big issue, and that's been my big kind of issue for years, is like make sport accessible in all regions of this country, right? Like we can't just prioritize the big provinces. And so it took me probably like 2 years to really, not even like to my like NSO, but even to my teammates who like didn't understand what the sacrifice was. Like for the teammates that were in Vancouver, they were like, oh, like this is nice and convenient that we train here. Like we should always be centralized in Vancouver, and we should always have to spend all our time in Vancouver. And I was like, I see my family maybe once a year or two because I can't afford to fly back. Like I'm spending all my money on rent. I don't have a support system here. I was working 3 jobs at one point trying to like just survive, right? And I was like, this isn't the way to live. Like this isn't a way to support your athletes. This isn't how. Like you're not gonna get the best out of yourself when you're burnt out, no life balance. It was just field hockey all the time. It was just working so that I could play field hockey. Everything I did was so that I could play field hockey. And so it took me probably 2 years to be like, okay, like just start talking about it, like just casually, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, it's really great that we're in Vancouver. Do you know there's some athletes like in other provinces like that are really great? And like obviously making sure that you're respectful of like. Obviously there's challenges, there's boundaries, like there's things that, you know, make it hard to be developed in these provinces, but making sure that you're also like heard and listened to and that we matter too. And I'm like really proud of the shift that Field Hockey Canada has had in the last couple of years, but now they like really into like we've had our first next gen camps last year in New Brunswick. And in Nova Scotia and PEI, all 3 have a PSO now, which is new. We sent our first team to nationals 2 years ago. Like huge things like that, and now like they're seeing the value of, you know, Atlantic Canada. And to me, that was my big goal. Like I've always said on the national team, like, well, I'm not sent to the national team, but when I come back to New Brunswick, like my succession plan is like another New Brunswicker is going to come onto the team, and that's when I can retire. Like once we get like people coming in, like that's when I'm gonna feel comfortable like saying that like I've done my job on the team. And so like, yeah, at first I was scared to kind of voice what I really cared about, and that was the big thing for me, is like making sure sports accessible, because it should be, and we have some really great athletes in New Brunswick, and just because we're not, you know, an official PSO doesn't mean we don't have great athletes. So now there's a pathway to get to the national team, there's a pathway to get to the junior national team. And so like, yeah, for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on top of the world right now. Like this was the first year where there was an actual pathway to get to the national team from a province that didn't have, wasn't BC or Ontario. And so I think doing stuff like that gives me more confidence, like seeing the change that, you know, your voice makes. And I think as athletes, we're often called upon to advocate, and, you know, and it's a bit easier sometimes because you have the collective voice of all athletes. Like, no athlete's gonna say, no, I don't think we need more funding, I think we have enough, I think we're good, thank you. So like things like that, obviously it's easy, you don't really have to be independent in those moments, but I think when it comes to like things like where you see unfairness and stuff like that, if you've experienced it, it's a bit easier, but sometimes you just feel so grateful to be where you are and you don't want to mess it up. So I think it's the balance of like, the more experience you have, the more you feel comfortable. I mean, I'm year 5 now. It's bad, but I'm like, if they kick me off the team because I said something about how New Brunswick should be valued, then I've had a good 5 years. And but I would say, like, they care about me and they care about what I say, and I know that now because I've spoken up. So that's my big rant about field hockey in New Brunswick.
So I would say this, I would tell my boys, I said, if your voice is cracking, keep talking. That's what I would tell them. If they're in a group talking or having a hard time, or they're nervous or whatever, just say, just keep talking. People will hear you, and that's how you get heard, right? So the other question I was going to ask, because if I could ask myself, like 25 years from now, when you're looking straight ahead and you can ask yourself a question and get the answer back in real time, what would you ask yourself? And I'll put that.
That's hard.
Maybe you'll have grandkids by then.
Was it all worth it? The answer will be yes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyone else? To think about that.
Oh.
I think for me, Billy, and again, coming back to like the whole time I've been on the national team, my big goal has just been like developing the sport here. Is like, did you make a positive impact? Like, and if I did, then it was worth it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not been easy. It's not easy to like go to Vancouver every month and train. Travel sucks. It's like, flying to Europe is the same distance. But like all of it will have been worth it if I make a positive impact in my province and in my communities.
I'm just trying to think of my girls and how like I would frame a question to be like, you know, did you stay in touch with them, or like do you know where they all are, or like, you know, what are they doing now? Like that's, I don't know. Like my girls are like, my student athletes are just, when it comes to sport, that's all I can think of is them. And I mean, yeah, you can ask, did you win nationals? Did you win coach of the year? Did you like, but that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I don't really care. As long as my girls are like doing good in life and, you know, they're doing everything they want. Maybe selfishly, did Gray play? Was Gray red? I think that would be pretty cool. And sometimes sport games should be volleyball. But yeah, like, are you happy? Is your family healthy? You know, are you still involved in sport? I think that would be important for me to just, how are you continuously giving back? Are you still doing it?
Good. I applaud you guys. Yeah, great for me to come and listen to you guys. I really enjoyed it. Have you had any discussions about men's hockey?
Lots of discussions. It's about where those stop.
Right now.
I'm done.
But,
We're here to talk about women, Randy.
My question to me would have been, was I going to be a disaster? The job they gave me to do, because I really was. I found myself in some pretty crazy spots. And my first choice did the Olympics this year in Paris, and my second choice was the top 4 in FIV in the World League matches. So those are my two. Then my best friend Matt from here was a new national free and got him through 2. And like, sent them to Turkey of all places. I said, oh my God, that's going to Turkey? And that worked out, but we did that, so, well, it's good fun. Thank you. I'll take that question back too.
I think we'll wrap up with that. Sarah, did you have anything that you wanted to
So yeah, actually, I'm just gonna go back to Randy's question about 25 years ago, so I'm not gonna steal the show here, but, Monique
Show
was,
me Michelle.
Monique was my Canada Games coach 24 years ago. I was trying to do the math, do not know. And I knew one thing, when Monique walked in the door tonight, my face lit up. I was like, that's Monique. It's Monique, so there's something you can think about, that 25 years from now, if you run into one of your players, you want them to be excited to see you. Like, you know, Monique and I run into each other from time to time in Fredericton, but like, I still, when I see Monique, I'm like, Monique, you're here, like, awesome. So there's something that your players want to see you again, they want to see you.
Now, there may be a few that may, but that's a conversation.
Yes, so anyway, like, we might be a small group here, but I think we're a very appreciative group, that this was family, there's similarities and differences, and so we're so lucky to have you guys here, we really appreciate it. Thank you to those who joined us tonight, and, you know, we wish you all the best in your, you know, national teams and future seasons, and all your
Sleep.
sleep, and I know we all have bedtimes coming, we all have bedtimes coming very soon. So, we'll wrap up there, and, yeah, thanks everyone for coming, thank you very much.